Okay, I'm audible over here over the web. Yeah, fine. So let us jump back to the PowerShell or Visual Studio Code which we have done yesterday. Uh, okay, so this is what we have done yesterday, right? We have taken a cloud machine and we have created an EC2 instance out. Okay. Now, if I want two machines, what will I do? I have to create other file or other resource. Other resource. Just whatever resource which you are seeing. Okay. So, for example, I would call it as one. This is my first EC2 machine. And here I would call it as two. Two resources cannot have the same name. That's the only thing which you need to take care of. And you can basically create as many as you want. All right. So what this will do is this will create two EC2 machines. So whenever you want multiple, just ensure that the names do not collide. Okay. The names do not collide. The name should not collide in any case. If I want three, I'll be basically copying and pasting it, and the name of it will become 3 or 4 or whatever that makes sense to me. Fine. Okay. Now the problem statement was one is here most of the things are hard coded. All right. So we want to basically create variables like what we did in Packer. We want everything to be parameterized. Okay. This works only in my account. Yes. Just because this works only in my account, because everything here, VPC ID, the access key, the secret keys, and everything here is specific to my account. But if I give it to you, will it work for you? No, will not work for you. So what we would do is, let us see how to create variables out of it. Okay. And then let us discuss about the other areas. Okay. So first, to write a variable, it is much like Packer. There is the conceptually there is no difference in Packer. Syntactically they differ. All right. So Terraform variables. Today, do we know what a resource is? Provider, right? Today, what we will be doing is we'll be basically using this input variables and output section also, where we display something to the user. Right? Okay. Fine. So, are you seeing variable? And then you give the name of the variable, which is key. Okay. And then you will tell what is its type. What is its type? And if you want to give it a default value, then you can use default equals to. Then you can use default equal to. Map is the type which I'll be discussing tomorrow. Today it doesn't make much of sense for us, right? By end of this class today, let us identify a use case, and for realizing that use case or closer to real time scenario, we will be using all of that stuff, right? So variable, and then there is something called as type, and there are default values. Now if you scroll down a bit, it will try to tell you what it is. You can put these three things: variable, type, default, and description, right? And whenever you want to write a variable, you have to give variable and then basically use it over here. So let us create variables now. Okay, you can write it anywhere. Okay, but today let me do one thing. Let me go to my EC2 folder and create a new file which I would be calling it as variables.tf. Can I write Terraform in multiple files? Why? How will I give the input? Because here the input is not file, here the input is directory. So it is okay even if you write it in multiple files, right? So variables.tf. Now let me go over here. What is the first thing which I want? I want region to be taken. All right. So how do I write it? Basically use this name. Okay, and Visual Studio Code will help you the rest once you have extension. So see what happens. Variable, give the name. All right, this is the first stuff. With default and description, you can use whatever that makes sense to you. All right, so variable region, and the default value which I want to give it is US West. Simple. Okay, now what is the next thing? Basically I want to give access key. For access key I don't want to give a value. I will be giving the value while calling this. So variable access key. I think they have written stringent rules. Type is equals to okay, fine. Now the same thing for the secret. Variable secret key. All right, what are the other areas? Okay, image ID, yes, yes or no? Yeah. So variable I'll be creating with the default value. So image ID, or you can write AMI ID, whatever you are aware of. Okay, give the default value. For the things which you don't want to enter, which you think are obvious, just put a variable with the default value. For the things which you think that they are specific, okay, every user has to basically enter them, don't write the default value. Okay, fine. Now how about the rest? Basically I need to give the key name and security groups, right? So variable key, and key is Terraform. Okay, similarly one more thing which I need to give is instance ID. Also I can give, I'll do it later, but security groups is one important stuff. So variable security groups, you can give any name by the way. Okay, and what is the value of the security groups? Just copy and paste the stuff. Fine. And then what are the other things? This security group is fine, I'm not really interested in this part, so it's okay. Now what is the other thing which I need to give? Instance type. All right, so variable with default instance type t2 micro. ఏం రాసేసుకుంటున్నారు? I want to understand what is that you are writing. For me Visual Studio Code is helping a lot. What is that you are writing? Okay, there is no need for you to write anything, these files are already there. Okay, understand what I am doing, right? I am parameterizing the stuff. All right, okay, good. So I have basically parameterized all, but is it completely parameterized? No, because in the resources section still I am using the hard coded values. So there should be some syntax, okay, how would I fill that value over here? Okay, in the packer, what is that we have used to fill these variables? Pardon me? Just recollect that. While you are doing this, also recollect that there will be some special set of characters which you need to use. Okay, what was that? ప్యాకర్ మాట్లాడుకొని మనం 3 రోజులు అవలా, అప్పుడే మర్చిపోతే ఇంటర్వ్యూవర్కి ఏం గుర్తుంటాయి, రైట్? ఓకే, ఫైన్. So now I need to put these values over there. Now let us see what would be the syntax. Let me go to the documentation of it. I'll come to the variable files later. Okay, I think in this documentation, now let me open the other file where I have used that. So what is that? It is mentioned over here. You have to use dollar, curly braces, and then for variables you will have a section called as var dot your key name, var dot your key name. So let me close this, come to my first EC2, and over here what is that I would be writing? Dollar, curly brace, var dot, okay, whatever variable name which I have a variable name which is region. This is what I have put there. Okay, next, access key. Okay, let me paste them because I have to pass them anyway. Okay, now here dollar var dot whatever key which I have set for, I have used something called as access key. All right. Oh. Fine. And now here dollar var dot whatever I have kept for that. So if I'm not wrong, I have kept secret key. Let me cross check. Secret key, yes. Now image ID. Okay, so again the same thing, dollar var dot image ID. Similarly, dollar var dot, okay, instance type. Let me cross check whether I have written the same thing or not. Instance type, right? And key name, dollar one sec, they have written too much of format logic unnecessarily. Okay, var dot key, yes. And last one is dollar var dot security groups. I am thinking that I have written the full name. Yes, that's it. Okay, and if you want to parameterize more, see what is the sections which you want and create a variable. So then there is no need for you to put all these variables in one file also. So if you want that, you want to divide variables into 3 or 4 files, you can easily do that. But generally people create a file called as variables.tf to put variables, and for the actual environmental creation they will be using files like main.tf. All right, so that's the naming convention which people generally follow, but it's fine. I've written my first EC2, right? Yeah, So they will be writing main.tf there for whatever they are doing, right? And then they will be writing the last file, which is output.tf, which will tell what is that has been created. Yeah. Okay, good. Now till here, are we good? Yes. Okay. Now if I want to create the variable file, if I want to create the variable file, okay, just like what we did in packer. In packer there was one way, was you use -var and then give the value every time, or create something called as var file. In var file you make a list of all the keys and then values. You can also do the same thing here, but initially let us go with basically the var, and then let us go to the var file stuff, right? Okay, now where are we? Oh, my first EC2, right? Now let me open PowerShell. Okay, so let me go to the directory. Yeah, first is packer, right? Thanks. Terraform, validate, not. What do you think will happen? So we have put two variable values where we have not passed any value. So for this Terraform validation to happen, you need to pass those values. So I'll be just saying Terraform validate, okay, -var key equal to value. What is the key? Access key. Let me write something. I'm writing invalid values. Okay. Similarly, -var secret key is equal to something and dot. Did it set any error? Because validation will not check whether your keys are right or wrong. It will just check whether your Terraform, whatever you have written, is properly validated or not. So even if you pass wrong values, validation might go through, because validation is not runtime checking. It will check syntactically whether the stuff is right or wrong. What Terraform validate can tell you is, for example, if you have written some syntactical mistakes, then it would complain. Otherwise, it will not. Okay. So this will be an error whenever you are trying to do plan, or a plan also will not try to tell you. Apply will try to tell you this, because apply will come to know that you cannot have a secret key with that. Okay. For Terraform, your secret key is a string. So whatever you pass in combination of characters is a string, right? So you can write your name also there. But whether it is a valid secret key or not, that comes into play when you are really creating your infra. So this will fail whenever you are trying to do Terraform apply. That's fine. Now, shall we? What is the next thing? Terraform hyphen help. What is the next thing which you do? Terraform plan. Okay. So Terraform plan hyphen help. Are you seeing out path? Okay. Out path will create basically a plan file. You can give hyphen out and give the some address, some file's name, and it would create a plan file. And then that plan file you can use apply. In that case, there is no need for you to enter yes or no for applying and all of that. Okay, but it's okay, fine. So now let me do Terraform plan -var access key. This time I will be giving the correct values. Okay. Okay. Again -var secret. Yes, looks good. Secret key is equals to and I do dot. But if I want an output, I will be giving hyphen out to get a file. I am not doing that right now. Okay. So now the plan says that there are two things which are adding. There are zero changes and there is zero destroy for whatever which you are creating. Because if you remember, yesterday I have destroyed everything, so it has to create. Now how many resources did we write? We have written two resources, one for security group and one for EC2 machine. That's what it is trying to tell. You are adding two, you are changing nothing, and you are destroying nothing. All right. Okay, good. So now I'll do the obvious thing, which is Terraform apply. I don't want to type all of this again. I'll just replace this plan with, all right, because otherwise I have to build this statement again. Yeah. Did you got the essence of it? Exactly the same thing what we did in Packer. The only difference is here the syntax is different. Okay. Now it will do the planning because it doesn't know what is the plan file, and then it is asking this is what it would happen. You are going to create two resources. You are going to change nothing. You are going to destroy nothing. Are you okay to continue? If you are okay to continue, just click yes. As of now, I'm not. So I'll click on no because I have to do something else. Okay. If I click on yes, it will create. Yesterday we have looked into it. It is not very different stuff. Okay. So now there is only one thing which I want to do over here. The security group which I created over here. All right. I've created a security group. I don't want to use the security group from what is a from the input parameter, but rather I want this security group to be used over there. So can I use these kind of references? Okay. So will this resource create a security group? Yes or no? So will this create? This will create a security group. All right. And I want to use that security group over here. I don't want to pass users to pass. Every time I'll be creating it, I'll be using it, and I'll be deleting it. All right. So okay, this is fine. I have a security group there, but how am I going to use? How am I going to tell that the resource was that? Okay. You just need to create dependency, and for dependency there is basically certain structure. So if you see in this example, he's creating elastic IP address. Yes. Will that resource create something? Yes. So that he wants to use probably in some other stuff. Let us see how he does it. Okay. 1 minute, man. This is quite an obvious stuff. I want a syntactical expression. Let me do one thing. Every time I don't want to go to my previous examples. Ah, are you seeing certain syntactical element over here? Okay. So basically, whenever you want to use anything, okay. So what is it? Resource will have a type dot name. That will tell you what is it. It is all about. Okay. And now, if you see over here, if he wants the complete security group, you can hide it. But he wants just the security group name or an ID, right? So you will be basically using dot name or dot ID depending on what is the field which you are passing, right? So now let me go to the stuff over here. Okay. Now if I want to use this elastic IP address, in somewhere else. So probably I'll be using AWS underscore EIP dot IP dot some properties name. Okay, so you can use some resources which you have created in the other stuff by using that kind of a syntax, and what is that syntax? Here it is written, type, which is your resource type, dot the name which you have given, dot what are the valid things in it. Okay, so now let me go to this resource AWS underscore security underscore group. I'll come to know how did I came to know about that ID or the stuff. Terraform AWS security group. Okay, the section on the top tells you about what you have to give. The section where you will be seeing that these are the attributes which will be exported will tell you what you will get. So for example, if I here, are we seeing anything called as name? ఇందులో నేమ్ ఏమైనా ఉందా? ప్రాపర్టీ ఎక్కడ ఉంది నేమ్? That's it. Now if I want to use this in my stuff, I'll be going over here and then I'll be simply telling, okay, what is my type? AWS underscore security underscore group. Okay, just like exactly what you have done over here, man. Let me show you the syntax once again. Okay, you have to use the same dollar which you have used for variables, but in the variables you used to write var dot something. Here you will be writing resources name, right? So come over here and then you would be basically telling that I am interested in, okay, dollar, my resources name is this, and in this the security group which I have created has the following name, which is allow underscore all, and in this I am interested in what, name or ID. That's it. So whenever you create some resources, there will be some outputs, and if you want to use them, basically use it over here. Simple. Yes. Okay, now let me go to one more stuff over here. Let me go to my resource which I am interested in right now, which is AWS underscore instance. Let us see what it will output. What are the different things which it will export? Okay, so Terraform AWS underscore instance. Okay, these are all inputs. I'm okay with that. So this is for what? Yeah, are we getting somewhere IP address, public IP? Yes. So if I want to output something, can I write something like, okay, type name, which is AWS instance, AWS underscore instance, and then what was the name which I have given? Let us assume that it is web, AWS underscore instance dot public IP. That will give me the IP address of this server. Okay, so whatever you are seeing in this section you can display or you can use it somewhere else. Okay, but you cannot use everything. You have to come down to this list to find out what are the different things that are supported. If you want to use something which is not present over here, then you have to find it in the other way around. Okay, so for example, if I want to know the private group, private IP, I will be able to. Okay, I'll be able to use that somewhere else, all of that. But remember, if you are the stuff which you want to create, if it is not here, you will not be able to make it out. So now, till now our approach was, no, not this. What was our approach till now? we used to basically create Terraform files, and in that we used to create resources, and in this resources we used to pass parameters, right? Whatever we want. For example, I want a T2 micro machine, so instance type T2 micro. I used to list, okay, parameters. I would call it also as inputs. Now, apart from that, we have couple of other things. One is you can configure variables, but that is not in this context. Okay, so whenever you create any resource, resource will generate, okay, list of exported attributes. Attributes are parameters, whatever you call it. Whenever you create a resource, for whatever inputs which you give, you'll get some outputs. Those outputs you can use it in some other resources, or those outputs you can use it in your output section. That's it. That's the whole point, right? Now I'll be doing this, the last part, output. What is the name of the output which you want to display? So the name of the output which I want to display is public IP. And how would I come to know what is a public IP? Just use the syntax. Okay. First I have to write the type. Type is AWS underscore instance. Okay. Dot one dot. Okay. What is that I want? I want the public IP address. Okay. I have to write something like public underscore IP. If it is a web server, right? Let us assume that you are writing a web server. I can also do this. http:// okay, but I'm not interested in that part. I want to display the public IP address. Now our Terraform file has three major sections. One is variable, the other one is resources, and we know how to pass the values from one resource to other resource. Yes or no? Yeah. And now there is no point for me to have a variables which is called as security groups. Do you agree? There is no point in having this. Okay, so let me go to here. Okay, now we have a look at this file. Okay, if I want, I can go ahead and basically do this stuff also. Create a new file which is called as outputs dot tf, and whatever you have written in the output section, put it in other file. Okay, and rather than using a name, okay, which is my first EC2, I would rename this to main dot. Okay, so we have done the same thing. Apart from now, we have followed the convention. We have three files now: main.tf, outputs.tf, and variables.tf. This is the actual convention which people try to follow. Main will tell actually what is the resources which they will create. Variables will tell what is that they are passing. Okay, outputs will tell what is that they want to display to the customer. And you can have multiple output sections. So I've just displayed public IP address. Let us assume that you want to display private IP address also. Just create one more output. Output, let me write that one also. We have just only one output, right? So let me go to one more output. Output, okay, private IP, okay, and value will be obvious, right? AWS underscore instance dot one dot private underscore IP. How will you come to know what are the different things which you would use? Anything from this. Anything from this exported list. Making sense? Right? Okay. Now, this is a better way of really dealing with Terraform. Rather than writing everything in one file, you break down into multiple sections. For example, if your main is becoming too much heavy, right? Give a reasonable name of what you are trying to do. Okay. For example, like security groups.tf, right? ec2.tf. databases.tf. Whatever you want to create, you can just put them in multiple files. This, in my approach, is a better way of really dealing with this. Okay, fine. Is it complicated? What we have done the same thing what we have done yesterday. I have added only two sections today. One I call it as variable, the other one I call it as outputs. Okay, and I have done one more thing. I have used the resource which I have created in other resource. For that, the only thing which I have used is an expression. So what is that expression? Dollar type of your resource dot the name which you have given, right, dot whatever are the exported list, whatever you want to really use it. Fine. Okay, now shall we run this now? Yes. First thing, let me run. I'll be executing the same commands again. Terraform validate. Good. Terraform. I'll be applying. Okay. It says that you are going to add two because my resources have not changed. Right? My resources are still two. One is security group, the other one is EC2 machine. Right. Good. Now it is asking, do you want to continue? I would say yes now. Okay. Then it will do whatever is its job. Fine. So this is more, what do you say, a decent or a professional way of really dealing with Terraform. When we started, we have started everything in one file, everything hard coded. Now if you see in my file, there are no hard codings. All right, there are no hard codings. Absolutely. It is creating a security group first because basically there is a dependency, right? Okay, fine. Let it do its job. Now let us discuss about something else while it is happening, because we know that anyway the only thing it could happen is it could be success or a failure. Whenever it is a failure, let us find out what it is. And from to my knowledge, there should not be failures in this because it is exactly what has happened yesterday. Right, now I want to use this file to create multiple environments. Multiple environments. So what would happen from environment to environment is, okay, for the test environment, my VPC will be different. By the way, I have not created the variable for VPC ID. I should have done that. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so from environment to environment, the VPC ID is different. For dev and test, I'll be using T2 micro, but for basically staging environment, I'll be using other machine. So my machine changes. Okay, and basically whenever I'm passing these values, okay, the variable section over here, there might be some different set of values. The key might not be Terraform anymore. So from environment to environment, I might have different set of variables for this. Different set of variables for this. So how do I deal with that stuff? How do I deal with that stuff? Okay. Did you got the essence? I want to use the same file, but I want to create three different environments. Okay. In all the three environments, I'm going to create the same stuff. The EC2 machine with a security group. But the problem is, three stuffs might be in a different region, might be for a different account. There might have different values, right? So how will I organize this? How will I organize this? Okay. Can you tell me any logical answer towards it? Only thing what is changing is variable values. What? Absolutely. You have to create three different variable files for three different environments, right? Because the thing that is changing is only variables, nothing apart from that, right? So basically what I will do is, generally what will happen in your real time scenarios is, they would go ahead and create folders, something like dev. Okay, I will call it a system test. U8. Okay, In dev, I have a variables. I will create a variable file with dev values. In test, in ST, I'll create a variable file with test values. In UAT, I'll be creating a variable file with UAT. That's the whole point. That's how you will be using the same file with different values. Fine. Now let us see how do I write a variable file. Okay, we have to do the same thing. It is not much difficult. So for writing that, not this one. Yeah. Let me edit this file so that we'll know the syntax. What is the syntax? Simple key equal to value. Not a JSON file here. But what is the file's name? .tf vars. So I have to go over here now, my first EC2, and create a new file, which I would be calling it as dev.tf vars. So for dev environment, what are the values which you want to pass? I want to just pass access key and secret key. Or access key and secret key, I don't want to pass them at all. Right? So let us assume that there are some variables which I want to pass a value. Now what are those variables? First thing is, let us assume that I want to, what is it? What shall we change? Instance type? Yes. So I'll be going over here. Instance type is equals to t2 dot, something like that. So for dev environment, this is the only change. Rest of the things are fine. So similarly, I'll be going over here and creating a file. Okay, st.tfvars, or you can use the same file name in all the three cases. Okay, so in this case, I'll be saying instance type is equals to t2 micro. Okay, as of now, I am not changing anything apart from the instance type, but you can change as many variables as you want. All right, so uat.tfvars. Over here, instance type is equals to t2 dot. Simple. Okay, now in the command which I executed, okay, so this was the command which I executed, right? So I'll be using minus var hyphen file. Okay, where is my file? UAT, and in UAT there is, that's it. So you basically the thing which you will add is you will be adding a var file, right? But access key and secret key, remember, no one will put them or write them in any files, because no one wants to put their passwords over text files. All right. So now if I want system test environment, what will I do? In the var file, I have to, the only thing which I have to change is I have to create the system testing environment. I have to create the system testing environment. For dev, I'll be creating the dev environment. That's it. That's the only thing which you need to do. Simple? Yes, but this is a very simple change which will give us a great value. You are using the same Terraform file to create environments in multiple different areas. That's the whole point. Okay, but is it changed much? No. Conceptually, we have just increased the knowledge which we have. So we were writing one Terraform file. In there, we used to write only resources and provider. Okay, now provider and resources, I am calling it as main.tf. And then whatever I am passing, I am calling it as variables.tf. In there, I'll be writing some syntaxes. Whatever I want to showcase to the users, I'm showcasing it to the stuff. And then I write outputs. So outputs will be shown like this. Are you seeing the public IP address there? Yes. And are you seeing the private IP address there? Yeah, it might not be fully visible to you because some of the stuff is cut, but are you seeing the last two sections? This was not there earlier, right? So you can display whatever you want to display to your customer. Now we have created the EC2 machine in which we have created the resources, and these resources are used interchangeably. Security group used in EC2 machine. Let us see whether that is reality or not. So let me go to AWS machine. I'll take questions after this. Let us understand this conceptually and then I'll take questions. Yeah. This is a machine which we have created. You can match the public or private IP addresses with this. And let me see what is the security group. Allow underscore all. And if you remember this, this is a security group which we have created from our Terraform. Right? Yeah. So now I have a Terraform file with 3 different set of variable values for creating 3 different environments. Okay. And for this, I didn't have to do much. I had to identify what is that is changing. First, I had to create variables for that. And then I have to create the variable files for it. And variable files is just an extension. You have to write TFRs, and writing the values of it is very simple because it is key equals to value. Key equals to value. Okay. In var file in Packer, you used to write JSON format, but here you have to use that format. That's a change. That's a difference. Right. Now, looking good? Yes. Okay. Now, if I want to destroy, again the same thing. Terraform, in the place of apply, you will be using destroy, and even while destroying, you need to pass variables which are required. Okay. Fine. Now, what is that we have known today? We know that now the resources which we created can be used immediately. Okay. They can be shared with what? Every resource, whenever you create, will give you some attributes out. You have to see what is that list. For every resource, all these days we were worried only about the inputs, but every resource will give you some set of outputs also. Please also have a look at it, because those outputs will help you in output section and also using them in some other resources. Right? Okay. Now let me look at the questions. Terraform. Okay. Let me start from the top so that I don't miss any question. You need to regenerate the access key. I didn't regenerate it because, yeah, ideally it is good practice to regenerate, but I am using the same key from yesterday. All right. Okay. Yes. Terraform ID, and actually whenever you work with single folder, right, it is far better. Once you have a Terraform plugin, most of the things will be done by Visual Studio Code itself. You don't need to remember syntaxes also. All right. Okay. Without doing an init, I went ahead and executed a plan because I'm using the same folder from yesterday. And whenever we do Terraform init, what will happen? A .terraform folder will be created, and in that provider will be downloaded. Since my folder already has that, there is no need for init. If my folder didn't have .terraform, then I need to do Terraform. Right? Okay. Destroy will not remove .terraform folder. Destroy will remove only the resources, not the provider. Okay. To answer the question, if let us assume I have basically gone to this section. Okay. And I executed Terraform destroy. Terraform destroy will basically update the state in TF state variable, but it will not mess anything over here. So in here, are you seeing the Terraform provider? So if you don't have it over here, then you have to do init. So even after destroy, this folder will still be there. If you are working out of a different folder, then you need to do Terraform init. So that's the case. Right. Now, how do Terraform knows that it has a variable definition? Because it will scan through all the files in the directory. That's the whole point. It will scan through all the variables, right? All the files. In the real time also, we'll be using tools like PowerShell and Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a must man or something equivalent to it. There is an equivalent editor which is equally good, which is called as Atom. Okay. You have to work either with Visual Studio Code or Atom. You cannot write this on Notepad and remember everything. Not going to happen. All right. Yes. And by the way, Visual Studio Code is a free tool. It is not even chargeable for enterprises. There is no enterprise edition in that. Okay, so it is a free tool. So every organization will not have any problem with. It is much like Notepad++. I don't think any organization has a problem with you installing Notepad++, right? The same thing here. Okay. Can we use output of one resource from one Terraform to other resource in second Terraform? So second Terraform, what do you mean by first Terraform and second Terraform? If you are speaking about the same directory, possible. If you are speaking about the other stuff itself, there is other way to reuse it. You cannot just say that. For example, I have two Terraform folders. One is EC2, the other one is basically something like load balancer. I create EC2 first. Okay, variables are already created. Now from there, I cannot say that in that folder I have created something, go and check. No. So for that cases, you have to use something called as data source. For that cases, you have to use something called as data source for that. All right. Yeah. Okay. Are we good now? Yes. So let me try to tell you what is that I want to realize. I said that I'll be discussing about a use case, right? Yes. Yes. That's war file. This is not a UI tool. We are not creating a UI. So please be very clear on that. We will never give something. Man executions ante in DevOps, always remember it. We don't want our executions to be stopped by the human interaction. No, in any case, no. So if your company is expecting, please say that, okay, give a UI. Let them fill whatever values they want. The output of that UI should be a var file. And you use that var file to execute your Terraform. We don't want to stop Terraform in between to ask to the user. No, not in any case, and not in any tool. Not only in this, throughout our DevOps journey, whatever tools which we learn, we never support that. Okay, because in DevOps is all about automatically running without human intervention. The point which you are asking is about human intervention. So for that, you have to, the only answer for that is use a var file. And if you want users to enter something, just give some UI around that var file. That's it. Right? It's not possible. Yes. Hmm. Hmm. If you are using what do you say, if you have written a syntax where you say that AWS underscore elastic IP dot something, there is already a dependency that is created. There is no need for you to do explicitly. Ante the question over here is, so for example, main.tf, right? Yes. So for example, I am using a security group resource in here. So before running this, the security group has to be created. That's something which Terraform will take care of. Okay. Whenever you are using this expression, that means that there is a dependency. Okay. But if you want to explicitly put a dependency, there is also a section called as dependency, very useless section. Okay. Dependency and what you can say dependency and you can say that before executing this, run them. But the other or the easiest way to tell is, if you are using that over here, define it in terms of some property value. Then there is no need for you to tell. Now there is no need for me to tell to Terraform that the security group and AWS instance are dependent to each other. Terraform will automatically know while scanning through this. Okay. If you don't have this kind of stuff, but still if they are dependent for some other reason, then you have to create a section called as dependency. Terraform dependencies, Google for it. You have to just add smaller section, which you have seen in the documentation earlier, and then you have to give the resources name over here. Okay, but that is very rarely used. Okay, generally we'll have a dependency when we are using it. So as you rightly said, if I have a elastic IP address, I should have a public IP before I create a EC2 machine. So just use IP address over there. Okay, that's how it is. Yes. How? There is no connectivity that is established. The Terraform has done a simple thing. In your directory, it has searched for all the TF files. In the directory, I have 3 TF files. It has read through all of this. And Terraform reads the syntax in a way that dependencies, it sorts by dependencies. Now it has scanned through the files and it has found out that there is a variables, there are variables. Okay, variables are generally read first. Okay, and then you have provider and then you have resources. And in these resources, it would find out what are the dependencies which you have. So according to what we have written, security group has to be created first and EC2 has to be created next. So it will go through that order and then outputs is the last section. So that's how it would do. It will not go by files, it will go by directories. That's the whole point. Right. So output, whatever we are displaying in the Terraform, can we use a file? I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure, because generally we don't do that. We basically try to write. Let me see what are the other sections in output. So generally, what we do is we display it onto the console, and whenever we want it, we use that append statements. So that's what we generally do. So Terraform output to file. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think so. It supports. No, doesn't support. You have to append it to the text file. That's it. That's the only part. Okay, fine. So can we use Azure? Murli, I'll answer your questions. There is no need for you to type a couple of times, because basically there are many people who ask questions, right? I might take some time, but I'll definitely try to answer. Okay, if I forget, then try to use it twice. All right. Okay. Can we connect Azure and Google Cloud parallelly? How to connect to the Google Cloud? What is that is required? Search for Google Cloud provider. Okay. And then what was the other thing? Azure or AWS, whatever it is. So for that, I need to write providers. So use the same file, use 2 providers, and use many resources. Done. Okay. That's how it would do. Yeah. So let me come to my use case, which I want to basically you guys to realize. Okay. Or we will be doing that. So, okay. You have to give Terraform files, .tf files. That's it. .tf and variable files if you have any. Okay. I'll show you how to give it, because there are how to give is already done in GitHub. Yeah. So okay, very simple 3-tier architecture: Nginx, Tomcat, and then MySQL. Okay, whether you create Nginx images manually or by Packer, I'm not interested. Whether you create Tomcat images manually or from Packer, your choice. Whether you create MySQL by stuff or whatever it is your choice. Right? So what is it I want to do is I want to create an Nginx server. Okay, 2 Tomcat servers and 1 database. By the way, the database which I would be creating, you for the guys who don't know cloud, you can use MySQL installation, but I will be using something called as Amazon RDS. I'll be using something called as Amazon RDS. Amazon RDS is database managed by Amazon. Okay, fine. Now, Tomcat servers or any server for that matter. I don't mind what is in there. Okay, so I want to create Tomcat or Node.js or whatever, any app server. Okay, so for this, I'll be using a EC2 machine. Okay, for the people who don't have Azure accounts, for this Nginx also create a EC2 machine. But myself in the classroom, I'll be creating the Azure virtual machine for this. Not a very great architecture, but I might not be able to, I will not be trying to establish connections. I'm just trying to create infra, right? So Nginx in Azure, Tomcat and RDSN. Yeah. So this is what I want to do. So I'll be dealing with two providers. Okay. So Azure provider is slightly, what do you say? You need to know a bit about Azure whenever you want to do, because there will be something like you have to use CLI to generate a lot of stuff over here. Okay. So for the people who don't know anything about Azure, for you even that is an EC2 machine. Okay, for you even that is an EC2 machine. I'm doing it in Azure just to prove a point that you can work with multiple clouds from the same Terraform file. That's it. That's the point which I want to prove. All right. So this is the architecture which I want to realize. All right. And after that, anyway, after once we finish Terraform, we will be creating Nagios. We have to work on monitoring. Okay. So I will be basically discussing on Nagios installation, but I want you to create Nagios from Terraform. Similarly, whenever I'm using Elasticsearch, okay, I want you to create at least EC2 machines from Terraform. So from now on, whenever you want a EC2 machine, what you can do is use Terraform. Whenever you want to create a security group, use Terraform. Okay, so that's how you'll come to know. Otherwise, you will never get in touch with this. Fine. So this is an architecture which I want to realize, and this is something which I would start. Our use case is this. Okay. The stuff after that, which we will not be doing immediately, or which we have to do after this is, in the Terraform, we need to add provisioning. So what I will do tomorrow is I'll try to add a simple shell provisioning. I'll add simple shell provisioning. Okay. But but for the people who know Ansible and Chef, please replace that with Ansible and Chef, like what you did in Packer. Okay. And where is Terraform or Packer called from? Who calls Terraform or Packer in the DevOps pipeline? Terraform ni Packer ni evaru పిలుస్తారు? నేనే పిలుస్తానంటారా? Who calls? Who will use it? Where is Terraform used? To create infrastructure. When do you want to create infrastructure? On which action will you create this infrastructure? Pardon me? To create multiple correct. Kani enduku? I am asking why. When? I am building dev environment. There is no customer there. Why you need to give testing environment? When? When will you give that? Absolutely. After build. గతాన్ని మర్చిపోకండి. I started my class by saying that developers will write code. The code has to be compiled, and after the code has been compiled, you need to create environments. You need to create environments. So for that, how do you deal with this? Yeah. So tomorrow we'll be looking at two stuffs. One is creating the stuff. The next stuff is updating the stuff. How Terraform deals with update. So there are some changes, and how Terraform deals with that update. So let us look into these two areas. Fine. See, టూల్ ఎందుకు వాడుతున్నాం అన్నది తెలియకపోతే రాకండి 2 వారాలు సెలవులు తీసుకుని ఇంటికి వెళ్ళరండి. అట్లీస్ట్ నెక్స్ట్ టూల్ అర్థమవుతుంది. ఓకే. Because the things are going to get tough and tougher. Yes, it is a fact. So the DevOps interviews after 1 year will be more tough than what they are today. Any technology, that's the case. When they start, they are simple because not many people know about it. But as the time progresses, the interviews become tough in any technology. That's a fact of a life, right? మన ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ నుండే దగ్గర 300-400 మంది ఉన్నారు. వాళ్ళ ఇంటర్వ్యూలో కూర్చుంటే మనం ఇక్కడ మాట్లాడుకునే అడుగుతారు. Okay. If the guys who have selected who have been from our institute go and take interviews, they will ask what is being discussed over here, and sometimes more than that, because they might have gained some experience also. So how will you answer that? Okay. ఒక సంవత్సరం క్రితం మా బాబాయ్కి అసలు ఏమీ రాకపోయినా డెవాప్స్ లో ఉద్యోగం వచ్చిందండి. మీ బాబాయ్ అదృష్టవంతుడు, మీరు కాదు. Okay. Fine. And one last update before I wind up this classes. We are going to add some new topics to DevOps. That is Win DevOps, DevOps on Windows environments, right? So where we'll be discussing about PowerShell and PowerShell DSC, PowerShell desired state configuration. So this will add additional 15 days to our course. This will add additional 15 days to our course. But the whole point is this is an optional stuff. So for the people who don't want to get into this, that's the same stuff. Now our course, which has 5 parts to it, will become 6. Out of which 5 are mandatory and 6th one is optional. You choose whatever you want to leave. But don't leave Docker. Docker and CA are mandatory. Apart from other 4, choose any 3. Okay. But for the people who are not going to jobs, who are idle, I would recommend come to all the 6. All right. So Win DevOps, where we'll be discussing about PowerShell and PowerShell DSC, will start immediately after Docker. After Docker, we used to start Ansible, right? That was our flow. Now after Docker, we'll be starting Win DevOps, Windows DevOps, where we'll be learning PowerShell and we'll be learning something called as PowerShell desired state configuration, and we'll learn something about Active Directory. All right. So that is those 2 weeks are completely focused on Windows. We'll not Windows servers. We'll not be speaking about any Linux instance over there. We'll be discussing about WinRM. So that is a Windows section, because there are many jobs where they ask about DevOps for Windows and they are open from many days. DevOps on Windows and the positions are not filled and they're open from many days. So why do you want to leave that opportunity? So we will be learning PowerShell DSC. We'll be learning some Windows IA server configurations and all of that stuff. Okay. And by the end of Windows DevOps, we'll try to deploy one .NET application onto the Windows IA server. So that's the whole intention of that exercise. So for the people who are here, I think this is a value add is what, because that is just because of the analysis which I'm doing on the websites, the Naukri or this kind of sites, which basically give about the info. And Windows DevOps is much like DevOps how it was 1 year ago. So Windows DevOps and Azure are the easier way to get into industry right now. If you go to the Linux world, the things are slightly tougher than when you compare it with Windows. So why don't we do the same stuff? And one more announcement on the cloud front, on the cloud side of the things, is our cloud syllabus is completely revamped. Now our cloud, yesterday I've discussed in the cloud class. Now our cloud will not be AWS and Azure. Okay, it will be based out of the roles. We will start with Azure architecture. We'll then go to the Azure administration, then AWS architecture, AWS administration, and AWS and cloud, AWS and Azure DevOps. So that's what our content is all about. So our content is no longer AWS. We discuss one topic, one in Azure and one in the stuff. So from the next batch, which is mostly on Wednesday or Thursday, I have to fix the time. So the things are going to change. All right, change for the good. Okay, ఇన్నిసార్లు చేంజ్ ఎందుకు చేయాల్సి వస్తుందంటే because things are rapidly changing. Okay, even for me it is very simple if the things don't change. పొద్దున్నే లెగిసి బట్టలు వేసుకొచ్చేస్తే అయిపోతుంది నాకు. But if the things change, right, that will involve a lot of, even I have to go and do something before I come and deliver anything before you. So for example, if it is Chef, Ansible, Terraform, I don't come prepared. There is no need for me to be prepared because I'm using them. But if I have to deal with something else, okay, then I have to start from zero. Okay, if it is Terraform, Ansible or Chef, the only thing which I have to do is I have to see what are the latest updates. Are they relevant to you right now? If they are relevant, I will deliver. Otherwise, there is no need for me to do anything. So for me, it would be very good if the things don't change. But unfortunately, that we are not in the industry where things are constant. All right. So this Win DevOps will be added to you, and DevOps course content I'll be basically adding that stuff probably by end of the day today, and tomorrow or day after tomorrow you'll get the new course contents. Okay, just go through that for the Windows DevOps sections. And as I'm trying to tell you, we will be dealing with PowerShell, PowerShell DSC, and slightly Active Directory concepts. Okay, yeah. So that's the whole point, right? So any questions? I think I'll be answering it. I don't go by dates. Just tell me what is the topic which you have started from. మే 6th అలా గుర్తున్నావు నాకు అంత జ్ఞాపక శక్తి లేదు. What is the topic which you have joined from? If May 6th, logically you might have started from a couple of things ago. What was it? CI. Jenkins? Yeah. Jenkins and Vagrant might be the stuff which you have started from. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So please tell me, don't give me dates. Tell me the topic which you have started from. It will be very easy for me. Yeah. Can we expect new additions to Azure that to be taught to the current batch? It is not to current batch. It is to all the students who have left DevOps also. Win DevOps mail will be sent not only to the guys who are basically learning it right now. It is being applicable to all the students who are not coming to the classes, but who have finished their courses also. That's what we do at Quality Thought. Whenever I update any change, it is for the good of whole of the stuff, right? But if it is something really different, for example, when Azure was introduced, okay, there was a fee. But for whatever I am doing right now, which is addition of Win DevOps or changing the way which I deliver the content, that will not be chargeable. It will be sent to all of our students. Okay. So a mail will be sent to all the DevOps students who have joined from day one in Quality Thought 2 years ago, saying that we are adding Win DevOps. If you are interested, you can join. That's how the things work here, right? The same thing for the cloud. So anyone who has joined AWS and Azure will be basically saying that this is how it is going to be, right? Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it started from Jenkins and Vagrant. Don't worry, for you the course has been slightly increased by 2 weeks. Okay, but that increase of 2 weeks for you are better good, because after finishing Windows DevOps and PowerShell DSE and Docker, you can directly apply for job, right? So for the people who have this combination, CI or Docker or any other tool, you can go to interviews. There is no need for you to wait for the complete cycle to be finished. Okay, but don't go to your dream companies. నా ఫస్ట్ ఇంటర్వ్యూలో టెస్లా మోటార్స్ లో జరగాలి అని మనం సగం నాలెడ్జ్ తెల్లకూడదు అలాంటి చోట్లకి, right? So initially, whenever you are going to the interviews, don't go to the companies which you are desperate about. Fine. Thanks guys. I'll basically discuss about this again tomorrow, and tomorrow what we'll be doing is we will be taking this scenario and I'll be introducing to you something called as Terraform modules, and we'll be using maps. And tomorrow I don't want to use directories anymore. I want to use plan files. Tomorrow my approach will be, I have used Terraform apply dot, right? So I'll be using Terraform plan out, and I'll be creating a plan file, and then I'll be using that. Okay, then we will come across a statement where, yeah, I am doing good, but I don't want any of the developer to be able to create this infrastructure when I am creating it. So how to create that logs? So that will take us to the backends, and that will finish basically Terraform. So Terraform will be finished by Thursday. Today is Wednesday, right? Thursday or Friday, and then we have to start the elk stack, which goes till Wednesday, right? Elk and Nagios. Let us see what is the best combination that will work out for us, right? Yeah. Thanks.